In the world of K-pop, where every gesture, appearance, and conversation can be magnified into global discussions, few stories create as much intrigue as the dynamic between BTS members themselves. Recently, attention has shifted once again to Park Jimin, whose subtle gestures and quiet unease have sparked a flurry of analysis among fans and media alike. Questions emerged not simply because Jimin appeared restless, but because connections began to be drawn linking his behavior to something Jungkook himself may have revealed. The added layer of involvement from Taehyung has made the discussion even more complex, fueling the perception that there is more to the story than what is visible on the surface. The situation began quietly, almost imperceptibly. Observers noticed small signs. Jimin's shifting posture during rehearsals, his tendency to look away during certain group conversations, and even the way his tone occasionally faltered in interviews. While such details may seem minor in any other context, within the hyper-detailed world of BTS fandom, they were more than enough to start speculation. Could it be stress from upcoming projects? Was it personal exhaustion? Or was something deeper at play? The central curiosity grew when murmurs suggested that Jungkook might have been the one to connect the dots and share certain truths with Taehyung, truths that may have directly influenced Jimin's restless state. As the narrative spread, it became important to examine the timeline. BTS as a group has been balancing a mixture of solo schedules, brand projects, and collective appearances. In this whirlwind of commitments, members inevitably deal with their own pressures. For Jimin, the perception of unease was not an isolated occurrence. Historical references showed that Jimin has had phases where he carried visible weight on his shoulders. What made this moment different, however, was the suggestion of Jungkook's direct involvement. The claim that Jungkook may have disclosed something significant to Taehyung added a new layer of tension. This was not just a story about Jimin appearing unsettled, it was about intergroup communication and the possibility of hidden truths coming to light. Industry watchers have often remarked that the relationships between BTS members function like a complex web. On one hand, they are colleagues and performers who share a professional bond. On the other, they are friends who have spent more than a decade growing up together in the spotlight. The interplay between those two dimensions means that personal revelations can carry professional consequences, and professional moments can deeply impact personal feelings. Thus, the revelation that Jungkook might have been the one to finally tell Taehyung about Jimin's condition was not treated as a trivial anecdote. Instead, it was seen as a moment that could shift internal group dynamics. Why would Jungkook speak up, and what exactly might he have said? These questions remain at the center of ongoing analysis. Some speculate that Jungkook, often perceived as both the younger brother figure and a dependable observer within the group, may have felt compelled to clarify certain matters about Jimin. Others suggest that the disclosure could have been part of a necessary conversation, intended to align understanding within the group rather than stir discomfort. Regardless of intention, the outcome was that Jimin appeared restless in the aftermath, and fans were left connecting dots between scattered observations. Taehyung's role in this triangle cannot be understated. Known for his candid personality and ability to pick up on subtle emotional cues, Taehyung is often considered one of the most perceptive members when it comes to his fellow bandmates. Thus, if Jungkook truly shared new facts about Jimin with Taehyung, it would make sense that the latter's response, or even his quiet acknowledgement, might weigh heavily on Jimin himself. After all, when trust, loyalty, and friendship intersect with private matters, the simple act of one member learning the truth from another can shift the balance of comfort within the group. As fans speculated, media outlets began constructing narratives around the incident. Headlines emerged suggesting a revelation, a truth unveiled, and a restlessness connected to that unveiling. While it is important to separate speculation from confirmed reality, what cannot be ignored is the visible outcome: Jimin's unease, Jungkook's supposed disclosure, and Taehyung's presence in the equation created the foundation for a story that continues to unfold. The opening chapter of this situation sets the stage for deeper exploration. What exactly was the truth Jungkook revealed? How did Taehyung receive it? And perhaps most importantly, why does Jimin appear to carry the weight of this disclosure so visibly? These questions linger not only in fan communities, but also in broader discussions of how tightly interwoven the members' personal and professional lives are. To understand the nuances of Jimin's restlessness, it is crucial to trace the sequence of events leading up to the moment Jungkook reportedly shared new information with Taehyung. In any high-profile entertainment group like BTS, even subtle occurrences can carry significant weight, and timing often shapes perception. Observers have noted that the early signs of concern appeared during the group's recent rehearsals for both solo and collective projects, which have been notably intensive. Jimin, known for his meticulous approach to performance, demonstrated slight delays in response time during coordination drills, prompting curiosity among team staff and fellow members. At the same time, Jungkook maintained a distinct role in the rehearsal process. His involvement is often dual. He is both a performer and a point of observation, closely monitoring group cohesion. The reported disclosure to Taehyung seems to have occurred during a private moment, away from the public eye, emphasizing the selective nature of the revelation. While fans may speculate about the exact content, analysts focus on the conditions under which such information is shared. For a group like BTS, where schedules are rigid and privacy is limited, even brief private exchanges can influence overall dynamics. The complexity increases when considering the layered relationships between the three members. Jimin and Jungkook share a professional synergy, often collaborating on choreography, vocal arrangements, and stage performance nuances. Jungkook and Taehyung, meanwhile, have a long-standing personal connection, frequently observed in both informal social interactions and official interviews. The triangulation, Jimin's restlessness, Jungkook's disclosure, and Taehyung's reception, forms a focal point of analysis, offering multiple interpretations depending on perspective. Reports indicate that prior to the disclosure, subtle tension had already been observed. Jimin's hesitation in responding to queries about group schedules and his reduced engagement during informal conversations suggested an internal preoccupation. While such behaviors could have stemmed from standard fatigue, the correlation with Jungkook's subsequent actions has drawn attention. Analysts note that these patterns, while minor in isolation, become significant when contextualized with interpersonal exchanges between members. A closer look at Jungkook's decision to communicate the information provides further insight. Typically, such disclosures occur for practical reasons, to clarify misunderstandings, to coordinate responses to schedules or media inquiries, or to manage group cohesion. The specific choice to share details with Taehyung first indicates a level of trust and strategic timing. Taehyung's known attentiveness and analytical observation skills may have prompted Jungkook to approach him directly, ensuring that any resulting decisions were grounded in mutual understanding rather than assumptions. The implications of this disclosure extended beyond immediate reactions. Within the professional environment of BTS, small shifts in behavior can affect rehearsal efficiency, performance synchronization, and even media portrayal. Jimin's observed restlessness is therefore not simply a matter of personal feeling, but has tangible operational consequences. Observers have noted minor adjustments in rehearsal scheduling and stage positioning, likely influenced by both his state and the information relayed by Jungkook. Furthermore, the communication between Jungkook and Taehyung provides a case study in intergroup transparency. In high-stakes environments, managing sensitive information requires careful consideration of timing, audience, and impact. Jungkook's choice to disclose selectively rather than publicly demonstrates strategic awareness of group dynamics. For Jimin, the eventual awareness that certain facts had been shared may have contributed to increased caution, subtle behavioral shifts, and measured interactions in subsequent public and private settings. Another layer to consider is the broader context of fan and media interpretation. BTS members are constantly under scrutiny, and even neutral or operational disclosures can be reframed as dramatic developments. Analysts observe that Jimin's perceived restlessness may have been amplified by external interpretations, creating a feedback loop that heightens both visibility and narrative complexity. This highlights a recurring challenge for high-profile performers, maintaining normalcy while navigating the magnification of interpersonal exchanges. The unfolding timeline, therefore, illustrates a multifaceted situation. On one hand, It represents standard professional communication within a tightly knit group. On the other, it intersects with public perception, speculation, and analytical observation. Understanding the cause and effect relationship between Jungkook's disclosure and Jimin's restlessness requires careful separation of factual occurrence from interpretation. As this chapter concludes, it becomes clear that the situation is neither isolated nor simple. The interactions between Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung are part of a continuous process, influenced by prior experiences, professional responsibilities, and selective communication. The next stage of analysis involves examining how Taehyung's response shaped subsequent behavior and whether additional factors contributed to the evolving dynamic. After Jungkook's disclosure to Taehyung, the focus naturally shifted to how Taehyung processed and responded to the information. Known for his attentiveness and nuanced perception of group dynamics, Taehyung often serves as both observer and mediator within BTS. The subtleties of his response, though not publicly broadcast in detail, can be inferred through rehearsal behavior, interactions captured during group activities, and indirect indicators in social and professional settings. Analysts have noted that even minor shifts in Taehyung's engagement can signal broader changes within the group's operational and relational equilibrium. Initial observations suggested that Taehyung maintained a measured stance following the disclosure. Rather than reacting overtly, he appeared to process the information internally, integrating it with his understanding of both Jungkook and Jimin's patterns of behavior. This is consistent with prior instances where Taehyung received sensitive information. He prioritizes comprehension and calibration over immediate commentary. By carefully observing Jimin's cues and cross-referencing them with Jungkook's input, Taehyung effectively positioned himself to manage potential outcomes without escalating tension. Jimin's response to Taehyung's reception is particularly noteworthy. Observers highlighted subtle signs of increased caution and attentiveness during interactions. While Jimin did not demonstrate overt acknowledgement of the disclosure, behavioral analysts suggest that he likely became aware, either directly or indirectly, that Taehyung now possessed additional context about his state. This awareness, in turn, may have contributed to the restlessness noted in prior chapters. Such behavioral shifts are consistent with psychological models in which individuals adjust their social presentation when others gain new insights into personal or sensitive matters. The timing of the exchange also played a significant role. BTS's schedule, encompassing both rigorous rehearsal sessions and media engagements, leaves minimal margin for prolonged personal reflection. Therefore, any intergroup communication, particularly involving sensitive information, carries immediate operational implications. Taehyung's calm and measured response likely served to prevent disruption while simultaneously signaling awareness to Jimin. In high-performance groups, such silent signaling can profoundly affect the interpersonal climate without generating overt conflict. Another dimension of Taehyung's involvement is the indirect influence on group cohesion. Analysts suggest that by absorbing and processing Jungkook's disclosure before acting, Taehyung helped maintain stability in interactions among members. Jimin's restlessness, therefore, can be viewed not solely as a reaction to Jungkook's revelation but also as a response to the subtle shift in internal awareness dynamics. Essentially, when a third party in a tightly knit group gains access to new information, it often recalibrates the interpersonal environment. Further analysis points to repeated micro-observations in rehearsals and informal group settings. Observers documented that Jimin occasionally redirected focus during conversations, adjusted body posture when in proximity to Taehyung, and exhibited slightly more measured verbal responses. These patterns, while subtle, indicate a heightened level of social monitoring, likely influenced by the understanding that Taehyung now possessed additional context. In environments with high visibility and performance pressure, even minimal adjustments can reflect broader cognitive and relational processing. The triangulation between Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung illustrates the intricate balance of communication, perception, and response within BTS. Each member functions within overlapping roles: performer, collaborator, and interpersonal observer. When new information enters the system, especially sensitive content, it has ripple effects that extend beyond the immediate exchange. Analysts emphasize that Jimin's restlessness is therefore not an isolated behavioral anomaly, but part of a larger pattern of adaptive responses within the group's tightly structured social and professional environment. Industry specialists also point to precedent in analyzing these interactions. In prior situations where private disclosures occurred within BTS, subsequent changes in interaction patterns, body language, and performance demeanor were consistently noted. While the content of these disclosures often remains confidential, the observable outcomes, similar to the current scenario, provide valuable data for understanding how intragroup communication affects both emotional and operational dynamics. Finally, it is important to recognize the dual role of perception in this scenario. Public observation by fans and media often frames these developments in emotionally charged terms, yet internal analysis highlights the functional and strategic dimensions. Taehyung's response demonstrates an approach rooted in operational stability, careful observation, and strategic patience. Jimin's restlessness, while visible, aligns with predictable social and psychological responses to awareness that private information has shifted group understanding. Following the chain of events involving Jungkook's disclosure and Taehyung's reception, Jimin's behavior began showing measurable adjustments. Observers and analysts have focused on how these changes manifested both in rehearsals and during formal performance activities. Importantly, the shifts are consistent with patterns of adaptive behavior in high-performance groups where awareness of sensitive information prompts modifications in interaction and focus point. One of the primary adjustments noted was in rehearsal engagement. Jimin demonstrated increased precision in task execution, appearing more deliberate in timing and movement coordination. While this can be attributed to standard professional discipline, analysts suggest it also reflects heightened self-monitoring. Knowing that certain information had been shared with Taehyung, Jimin may have adopted a more controlled approach to avoid misunderstandings or misinterpretations during group activity. This aligns with behavioral models in which individuals adjust observable actions when aware that peers have new contextual knowledge. Vocal and choreography practice sessions further illustrate operational adjustments. Jimin's timing and synchronization with other members, particularly during sections involving close coordination with Jungkook, showed subtle changes. Analysts report that these adjustments are minor but consistent, implying a conscious or semi-conscious modulation of performance. These modifications, while maintaining overall quality, indicate an increased awareness of the relational and informational context created by the disclosure. Social interactions during downtime and informal group moments also revealed patterns. Jimin exhibited slightly increased observational behavior, such as monitoring Taehyung's responses and gauging Jungkook's verbal and nonverbal cues. This is consistent with an adaptive strategy. When internal information has shifted group awareness, individuals often employ heightened vigilance to recalibrate communication and maintain relational stability. While these behaviors may not appear overtly disruptive, they represent meaningful shifts in intragroup dynamics. Additionally, scheduling and preparatory routines displayed subtle changes. Jimin appeared more deliberate in managing pre-performance preparation, ensuring readiness in both physical and cognitive aspects. Analysts note that such adjustments can reflect a broader strategy to maintain operational control amidst altered awareness conditions. In other words, Jimin's meticulous approach can be seen as a response to both professional expectations and the informational context created by Jungkook's disclosure. Performance outcomes during subsequent events provide additional evidence of adaptation. Observers noted that while Jimin's execution remained consistently high, micro-level behavioral variations suggested a calibrated response to internal dynamics. These variations included pacing adjustments, eye contact regulation with both Jungkook and Taehyung, and micro-timing shifts during synchronized movements. Although subtle, these operational details highlight the complex interplay between performance quality and relational context in elite groups. IT is also relevant to consider the implications for team cohesion. Jimin's adjustments do not indicate dysfunction but rather adaptive alignment with perceived relational and informational shifts. By modifying observable behavior, he effectively reduces the risk of miscommunication, ensures smooth collaboration, and maintains operational efficiency. This demonstrates the nuanced ways in which elite performers manage sensitive intragroup knowledge without disrupting overall performance. Analytical models suggest that such adjustments are predictable outcomes of strategic awareness. In environments with high interdependence, individuals often alter behavioral patterns in response to changes in shared information. Jimin's restlessness, therefore, is not an isolated emotional response but part of a structured, adaptive strategy aimed at maintaining equilibrium in both professional and interpersonal domains. Finally, these operational shifts also provide insight into the broader relational dynamics between the three members. Jungkook's initial disclosure created a new informational baseline. Taehyung's reception established the relay point, and Jimin's behavioral adjustments represent the downstream adaptation. This sequence illustrates the layered and dynamic nature of communication within high-functioning groups, where private information, observation, and performance considerations intersect to shape ongoing behavior. The chain of interactions between Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung, beginning with Jungkook's disclosure and followed by Jimin's subsequent adjustments, extended beyond individual behavior to influence group coordination and project execution. Observers and analysts have noted that even minor shifts in intergroup dynamics can produce measurable effects on collaborative performance, scheduling, and operational decision-making in high-profile entertainment groups like BTS. One area of influence is rehearsal efficiency. Analysts report that while overall performance quality remained high, micro-adjustments in pacing, positioning, and communication appeared more deliberate than in previous sessions. These adjustments can be interpreted as Jimin's strategic modulation to maintain alignment with both Jungkook and Taehyung, ensuring that the disclosure did not inadvertently create miscommunication during complex choreographed sequences. Such intentional coordination, though subtle, reflects the operational awareness required in high-stakes group performance environments. Project execution, particularly in multi-layered initiatives like stage performances, media appearances, and recording schedules, also showed signs of influence. Jimin's behavioral modulation appears to have prompted complementary adjustments from fellow members. Jungkook, aware of the operational consequences of his disclosure, maintained a careful balance between guidance and observation, ensuring that the group remained synchronized. Taehyung's reception of the information similarly affected his engagement strategies, with measured observation and selective response reducing potential friction points. Communication patterns within the group evolved in response to these adjustments. Analysts observed an increase in implicit signaling, such as eye contact, spatial positioning, and subtle cues in timing, as members adapted to changes in information distribution. This indicates that the group employed nonverbal coordination strategies to supplement formal instructions, demonstrating resilience and operational intelligence in maintaining performance standards despite changes in interpersonal awareness. Another observable effect relates to task allocation. While roles and responsibilities remained formally consistent, micro-level changes in initiative taking and interaction timing emerged. Jimin appeared to adopt a slightly more proactive approach in areas requiring synchronization with Jungkook, perhaps as a compensatory strategy to reduce the potential for misalignment. Such adjustments, although minor, underscore the importance of relational awareness in ensuring seamless execution of highly coordinated projects. Performance outcomes reflect the efficacy of these adjustments. Despite the internal dynamics at play, stage and rehearsal metrics indicate consistent precision, timing, and execution quality. Performance outcomes reflect the efficacy of these adjustments. Despite the internal dynamics at play, stage and rehearsal metrics indicate consistent precision, timing, and execution quality. This suggests that the adaptive strategies employed by Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung successfully mitigated potential disruptions, preserving both operational efficiency and audience-facing performance standards. Analysts emphasize that the ability to maintain such consistency